Hello and welcome to another video and podcast from fantasyfootballscout.co.uk. Here we will recover from a downright awful Game Week 28 in terms of the captaincy and look ahead to the best armband picks for Double Game Week 29. My original notes just said Game Week 29 and now they can say Double Game Week 29. Arsenal and Man City's fixture has been added to the game week, so that takes place next Wednesday, so plenty to consider. My name is Joe and joining me is Neil. Neil, welcome. How are you?
Hi Joe, how you doing? A long time no speak. My erstwhile team news buddy.
It is, we resume that duo again next week because I believe I'm filling in for Andy on the team news. So, but yeah, great to see you. Let's look at those double game week candidates first, really. So, Arsenal at home to West Ham. Then they face a Laporteless Man City. Aubameyang is in form. But is he the best option for the armband this week? So what do you reckon? Aubameyang for the armband?
He's the best Arsenal option, I think, but no one can contest that. I think there's obviously arguments to be had for players within your team, the likes of Pepe and possibly Saka. But for the captaincy, then I think Aubameyang's the only one you'd consider really from Arsenal. You're right. Highlights West Ham's defensive deficiencies. But the Man City one is the crucial one really, because the West Ham game would be probably enough to hand the armband in any given game week if it was just a single game week. But we do have plenty of competition elsewhere amongst the single game weekers, and it's this Man City game that really sort of hinges on it. Now, ordinarily, City are one of the better defensive teams in terms of the underlying stats, things like big chances conceded and clean sheets racked up. But as you say, Laporte is often a key cog in that defensive machine. He's going to be out now for, I think, around about 3-4 weeks. So we probably won't see him until after the international break. And the stats are there really. I think the last 3 clean sheets, Man City, they've all been with Laporte in the side. I mean, he might not have claimed the point, I think, because he got subbed off early against Leicester. But those 3 recent clean sheets were all with him in the team. Before that, I think they'd gone on a stretch of about 2 clean sheets in about, I think it was 13 matches. So it's pretty evident that he's crucial to their clean sheet potential. Fernandinho has been a bit of a revelation. Actually, I've been really impressed with the way he's played at centre-half, but it's who plays alongside him, of course, isn't it? That's the problem. Yes. They haven't really got a reliable option there. So that would give you a lot of hope, I think, particularly as Aubameyang plays off the left. Fernandinho has been more often than not the left-sided centre-half option for Man City. So whoever's on the right side of Man City defence, Aubameyang will be up against him directly, unless, of course, Pep switches things round. So, that is... on paper, you would think that's the double game week doesn't really enhance his credentials that much because it's Man City away. But the more you look at it, the more it does kind of appeal. And he himself, even looking aside from Man City, he's in such good form. I think since Arteta took charge, he's had less than half the shots that Jimenez has had, for example, but same number of goals. So his goal conversion rate in that time is, I think, 33.3%, which is pretty much the best in the division.
It's always been like that as well, hasn't
exactly.
it?
And if anyone's thinking that's not sustainable, it's always been like that. I think in his first season, or half season when he signed from Borussia, that was his exact goal conversion rate, 33.3%.
Oh, really?
Last year it was similar. I think it was around about that mark anyway. Last year it was mid-20s, so which is very good. I mean that is the elite kind of figure for the goal conversion rate. Vardy's often up there as well, although less so in the last 10 game weeks. He's used to, as you're saying there, Man City might not give him a lot of chances, but he's taken what opportunities he does have more often than not on a clinical basis, apart from that one, of course, against Olympiacos last Thursday from 6 yards.
It was, but he did score the other one, and that was when Martinelli came on and Lacazette had gone off, and that was what I found quite interesting the times I've seen Arsenal. Yes, Aubameyang is on the left. The narrative is that he's more threatening through the centre, and as that appeared, as soon as Martinelli came on, Aubameyang was much more central. Hey presto, goal. Hey presto, miss goal.
I also think that the way he's playing now, he's ostensibly a left winger under Arteta, but it's not the same kind of role he was playing under Emery. So we've discussed this before on the site. We've talked about how the left back, whether it be Kolasinac or Saka, as it is now, often forms the sort of the fifth man in attack. So they play a sort of almost 2-3-5 in attack. So Saka or Kolasinac is providing the natural width down the left, and Aubameyang is tucked in a little bit more centrally. So his penalty box touch count has gone up, I think, over 50% since Arteta took charge. So even though he has still maintained that left wing role, he's getting into more central positions. So I think he's seeing the fruits of that now.
Okay, so yeah, he's using that system to his advantage. A couple of things I guess to watch out for there. Obviously, if Lacazette's not starting, Aubameyang may be in the central anyway. But as you say, he's threatening. There's two matches here. The West Ham game is the one you would anticipate the haul in. The Man City one is you can hope for the best as well. Another thing, Tierney, I believe, is coming back from an injury this week, which would, I guess, be competition for Saka's place. But what do you reckon? Do you think, this is bordering on team news really, but I'm saying that because it affects Aubameyang's ability to come in off the flank if Saka's there. Maybe less so if Tierney's there. I don't know. But what do you think? Do you think Tierney's got a chance of actually starting?
I don't know, because he hasn't played for quite some time now. It was a shoulder injury, so it's not like it's some kind of leg muscle that would affect his sprint or anything like that. But he wasn't involved. I saw that he wasn't involved against the for the under-23s, I think, against Monaco. I might be wrong there, but I didn't see his name in the match report. So he hasn't got any kind of competitive action since he's been injured. So there's a possibility he returns for one of these games. They've not really got much else to blood them in because they're out of Europe now. So yeah, I wouldn't have thought, even if he does play, obviously that might affect Saka's minutes, which is a separate issue, but I wouldn't have thought he would diminish Arsenal's attack from the left flank, because he is a sort of offensive minded left back. He did that very much the same job at Celtic. So I wouldn't have thought it would impact that much on Aubameyang, but obviously it would affect Saka's minutes.
I've done a little bit of digging on the stats as well. Looking at West Ham, they're the 6th worst defence over the last 4 matches in terms of expected goals conceded, but City are the best. So the Hammers have a expected goal conceded over the last 4 of 7.23. So they're for the taking. There has been improvements with Hammers in the last match or two, but their defence is still there for the taking. City's is just 2.03, just 2 goals they should have conceded over the last 4, according to those stats. Just before we move on to Man City's assets, what do you think about any other Arsenal ones? I've heard some people talking about Pepe possibly. I know that Pepe and Aubameyang have been doing well in FPL recently, so Pepe an option for the armband?
I don't think so. I think maybe a bit of a leap. I think he's definitely a differential for people's squads in GW29. I just think with Arsenal's attack, you're never entirely sure who's going to line up apart from Aubameyang and Özil. Now, Özil's an ever-present, but I wouldn't even consider him as an option for my squad this week, because he's the sort of the conduit for the attack, but he very rarely gets attack matches. I think he's had 3 shots since Arteta took charge, and he's often assisting the assister.
He's indeed.
So he's not someone I'd consider. So yeah, apart from that, Aubameyang's the only one who would be, you'd think nailed. Beyond that, we've seen rotations, haven't we? Lacazette's been in and out. Pepe has been in and out even. He was benched in GW25. He didn't even start the first 2 games under Arteta. Now, I do think he's more secure than he has been, because he's back in form. He had that mega haul against Newcastle and then claimed an assist last week, although it wasn't quite as influential. But they've got the likes of Martinelli, Nelson, and Nketiah, all those players who can play across the front line. So with 3 games in a week, I do wonder whether he would change things around a little bit, Arteta. I'm never quite sure.
If I was a different kind of guy, I'd be tempted to get one of those others in, like Pepe, Martinelli even, but I just don't know whether they're going to start. I mean, that's what you need. Aubameyang's your man, I think. Move on to Man City. Speaking of, we know they're definitely going to start. We don't know if any of them are going to start, except for this guy, Kevin De Bruyne. I'm going to go on a limb and say he's going to start both games. They're both really important games. They're both against teams that are supposedly tough on paper. Manchester derby, and of course the Arsenal clash we've just been talking about. But what do you think about? I'm going to just nail it down to what do you think realistically about KDB as the captain in comparison to Aubameyang?
I would probably have him narrowly above Aubameyang. That's just my own interpretation of it. I think the fact that he's got, well, I wouldn't say two of the easier fixtures, because obviously Man United isn't by any stretch simple or straightforward, but he's then got Arsenal at home. I was just looking this morning at reasons to get him back in, because of course I ditched him last week like an idiot. But yeah, so for example, Man United and Arsenal are bottom 2 for chances conceded from set players over the last 6 matches. Players straight into De Bruyne's hands, of course. Now, what we've come to expect from De Bruyne is security of starts as well. So 19 appearances in a row in the league. He hasn't been benched since game week 10, I think. And in fact, that was an enforced absence against Wolves. Yes, there's possibly the risk of a benching in the coming week, but I think that might come in game week 30 against Burnley, because that comes a few days before the return against Real Madrid. Yeah. So I do think there's a possibility of him getting a rest there. But as you said there, I think given the magnitude of the two fixtures, you would expect him to feature against both Man United and Arsenal. I think especially if he's benched tonight against Sheffield Wednesday, that might tell us a bit more of the team sheets from the FA Cup game. So yeah, I think he's got the all-round threat. I think in the tougher games as well, especially away games, we've seen De Bruyne playing as a second striker. So I think in 4 of the what you'd call the bigger away fixtures, the likes of like Leicester away, Liverpool away, Arsenal away, De Bruyne played as his second striker behind either Aguero or Jesus. So, and he did a lot of damage from that position against Arsenal in the return fixture. So yeah, I think I'd have him narrowly above Aubameyang. I'd go back on what I said there about De Bruyne having the easier fixtures. He doesn't, let's be honest. No. Aubameyang's got West Ham at home.
Yeah.
But he's proven, I think, to be a threat in whatever the fixture. Given his returns against the big six this season.
Yeah, and of course Real Madrid, we're talking,
exactly,
we're talking across Europe.
He's on penalties, we think, now as well, which could be significant. And yeah, you got to look at other things as well. If depending on where you are in the world and the rank, effective ownership, De Bruyne is going to be very highly owned amongst the top 10k, for example. So it depends what your ultimate goal is, really, in terms of maintaining rank or stabilizing rank versus chasing it. So Aubameyang captaincy, I think, is the more aggressive move.
Yeah.
And one you would maybe consider if you're in the outer reaches of the.
Well, yeah. I'm considering Aubameyang. One of the reasons is that I'm around the 50k mark. I'd like to be higher. I've for a long time been captaining the likes of Salah. They've got an effective ownership because of their captaincy of like nearly 200% each week. It's ridiculous. So you've got to captain them. So the Shield pick versus the Saul pick, the classic FPL conundrum. I think if you're looking at the stats and being sensible, KDB is probably the better pick, even though Arsenal face West Ham. So looking at those expected goals conceded stats again, last 4, Manchester United have a tougher defence than you would perhaps think over the season, but they still have an expected goals conceded of 4.67. So they're conceding on average at least a goal a match, which is, hopefully you would imagine that KDB would be involved there. Arsenal are the 4th worst defence. So you mentioned that over the last 6, but over the last 4, they're amongst the bottom 4. They've conceded 4, but have expected goals conceded of 8.56. So nearly getting on for nearly 9 goals. They should have. So they've been lucky, really lucky, just to concede 4. So once again, that's in KDB's favour. It's a tough one, isn't it? And I think, as you said, ownership is really going to come into it with these two. I think those like me who want to be, not quite happy where they are in the rankings, like to be a bit higher. I guess everyone wants to be a bit higher, but if you're like in the top 100, just captain KDB. Don't worry about anything. But if you're like me, then I think you need to be a bit more aggressive. But anyway, good luck, KDB captainers, because I'm sure you're going to humiliate me. Let's move on to some other options as well, because as so often happens in double game weeks, it's a single game week as the really do well. But can we trust Liverpool assets? Salah, Mane, been reliable over the season, but less so recently, as captain shouts. They have a home game against Bournemouth, though, and we know the damage that Salah can do against Bournemouth. What do we think of Liverpool assets for the armband? And I guess in the context of they got to face, competition from the Man City Arsenal assets.
Yeah, I mean, before this game week was announced, or the double game week announcement came last night, then my armband was firmly on Salah and the vice on Mane. And I do think I'm still tempted to back a single game week player. I think if it wasn't for the fact that Liverpool have slightly stuttered and they're still likely to be Jordan Henderson list, which I might change. We'll hear from Klopp either today, tomorrow or Friday to see where that stands. Then I'd still be very, very tempted to leave it on a Liverpool player. The fact that we do get the team news, well, potentially get some early team news. Yeah, from because the early kickoff isn't it, on Saturday afternoon, so there might be a bit of information leaked out there. Who knows? But yeah, that will probably dictate not only my captaincy but my transfers as well, because I'll have a number of permutations lined up as to how to cram De Bruyne back into my team.
Ooh.
One of which might involve ditching Mane or Salah, depending on whether they start or not at Bournemouth. But yeah, in terms of captaincy credentials, then you could argue that this was the best fixture, standalone fixture of the entire game week, because Liverpool are, even when they were stuttering against West Ham and they nearly came unstuck there, they still scored 3 times in all season at Anfield. I mean, they've scored more goals than anyone else in home fixtures. I think it's 38 in 14. That's nearly 3 per game. Salah and Mane, I think it's 14 and 13 attack and returns respectively in the home fixtures. That's about 1 per game or more. Salah's like top of most statistics you'll underlying metrics you look at in home matches. I think penalty box touches, all of that kind of stuff that you look at.
Yeah.
Bournemouth as well, obliging opposition. I think it's no sides kept fewer clean sheets than Bournemouth this season. 4. They're on a terrible run as well. I think it's something like 1 in 17 matches for clean sheets, something like that. And yeah, I mean, wounded animal Liverpool. They've got to bounce back before the Atletico game. They want to be in some kind of form before that, which you could say that would perhaps reduce the risk of rotation if they are coming off a bit of a stuttering run and they've got to get some kind of rhythm back before that Atletico game. So yeah, I'm still very tempted by this fixture.
Well, here's the stat. So I gave you the stat earlier about expected goals conceded over the last 4 matches for Arsenal. How about how poor the Arsenal defence were? So their expected goals conceded last 4 is 8.56. So this is pretty bad. So that's good news for KDB, considering he has another fixture as well.
Yeah.
But then Bournemouth's is 8.85. So they should have been conceded similar. So by that rationale, Bournemouth's defence, yes, is really poor, but so too is Arsenal's.
Yeah.
So these are the decisions that we have to make. It is very tempting. I mean, they are startlingly poor stats there for Bournemouth, and obviously we have got the eye test. Look at results easily. One other thing I was looking at as well was this sort of lack of Jordan Henderson. So a lot of people, I saw it today actually, it was on Twitter, I think it was Darren Lewis in the Mirror, but I've seen this a lot saying, Liverpool really suffering without Henderson. And when you look at the eye test, it does look that way. And it does look like, it's not quite as cohesive, it's not quite gelling. But I had a look at, in terms of, what was I looking at? I was looking at, in terms of expected goals per match. So, and I looked at when Henderson's playing, or getting very significant minutes, to when he's not playing or just coming on for a cameo or just a tiny bit. And in fact, their average expected goals per match without Henderson is 2.11. So they're expected to score at least a couple of goals with Henderson. But actually without Henderson, but with Henderson, it's 1.84. So it's broadly similar, whichever way you want to look at the stats. They're actually a little bit less, but if you want to just look at them and you're a massive Henderson fan, they're actually broadly similar. So in terms of Henderson on his own, when he's not there, it's not actually affecting their attack. It may be affecting their cohesive unit, it may be affecting their defence as well. But in terms of what we're interested in here, the captaincy, if you don't see Henderson on the team sheet, I wouldn't worry about it. Because, yeah.
Yeah, I guess you kind of got to look at the matches that Henderson's missed as well. So he missed like a home game against Newcastle, where you'd expect Liverpool to rack up the shots. Home game against West Ham. I think it was Southampton as well, when they were shipping chances for fun. So there's obviously caveats to each. And I think that the Bournemouth thing as well, going back to the Bournemouth XG, Bournemouth were second on our season tick over the last 4 game weeks, and yet they've still conceded or expected to have conceded all those goals. So they were racking up the chances conceded, even in fixtures against Brighton at home, Aston Villa at home, Sheffield United, who aren't renowned for the goals, Burnley as well. So that would fill me with a bit more hope, I think, with Liverpool. And one other thing I'll leave you with, because I've just written an article on the Fantasy Flutter, which is a new thing I do on the site. It's about the number of crosses Bournemouth conceded as well. So they have allowed the most chances from their left flank. The most crosses from the left flank over the last 6 matches and over the season as a whole. They've allowed the joint highest number of chances conceded from their left flank over the last 6 matches. I think they're second for that stat over the course of the season. So Alexander-Arnold, that plays right into his hands, and possibly Mane's as well, because if all those crosses are coming in, and we know how good Mane is in the air, he's often top of headed chances amongst midfielders. He was last season as well. Then that might factor into your thoughts as well if you're thinking about Mane versus Salah, or even Alexander-Arnold.
I mean, I was thinking Aubameyang or KDB, but there are other options, and you've just you're almost persuading me there, and especially when I was looking at those stats with Henderson, and I was thinking, well, I don't care whether Henderson's playing or not, because with the way Bournemouth are and the way Liverpool can be with or without Henderson, could be goals there. Let's move on. This is sort of the also rans. Talking about people letting us down. Leicester, I'm just not interested. I'm not interested in even owning them, let alone captaining any of them. But yeah, do you have any views on Leicester? Those who want to captain the likes of Vardy, perhaps, against Villa?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still a Vardy owner, and if it wasn't for the fact that Vardy was playing Villa this week, if it had been any other team, I think, in the division, then I would have probably got rid of him for Aubameyang. What's still keeping me interested, and I'll have to obviously wait for Rodgers' press conference, see if he's going to be fit for a start, is the fact that it's Dean Smith's troops who are just dreadful in terms of defensive stats. I mean, they were awful. And this is the best sort of chance for Leicester to bounce back. Regardless of whether Mings plays, regardless of whether they're playing 5 at the back or 4 at the back, they just concede chances for fun. Last 6 matches, they've conceded 10 more big chances than any other team, which is, for such a small data size, I think it's 28 big chances conceded versus 18, which is the next worst, which just underscores how bad they are. No sides conceded more goals this season. No sides kept fewer clean sheets. For Vardy, I mean, I'm thinking about still retaining him, but I doubt I'm pretty much sure I won't captain him. But for those still considering it, because it's a bit of a differential this week, I suppose, his run, of course, is well documented that he hasn't scored since December. But in the 7 games he's actually played in since then, I think only one of the blanks, or one of the 7 blanks he's had, has been against a side in the bottom half of the table. So he's had some trickier fixtures within that. And that one blank against the bottom half team was against West Ham when he came off injured. So there are, straws to clutch at with Vardy.
So it's going to be a long wait, though, isn't it, till Monday?
Yeah. It is, exactly, Monday night game. So, and we saw what happened last time. I mean, managers aren't, they don't have to disclose every bit of team news, and there's a chance that, he hasn't a setback, or they keep him preserved for another game week. So, yeah, there is that flag hanging over him. But yeah, the Villa opposition is more in his favour than Leicester themselves and his own form. So that's what we're going off, really. Just the fact that they're such a great opponent. If it was, as I said, if any other team, then I don't think you'd be even in the conversation. It's just the fixture is so good.
Yeah. Leicester themselves would put me off, aside from having competing against double game week players, is that Leicester are among the 5 worst teams in terms of expected goals over the last 4 matches. So the only, so Villa have more chance of scoring, apparently.
Yeah.
That just says to me, I think if Vardy's starting, there's a chance of points, but it's just I'm not sure anyone can seriously consider captaining them when you've got so many other options, and even likes of Liverpool with single game weekers. Let's have a look at some more Wolves against a shaky looking Brighton at the moment. My team really fighting off threat of relegation. Well, not even fighting, just
you're involved in it now, aren't you?
Just facing the threat of relegation, not actually fighting it. But Wolves, 4th best attack in terms of XG in the last 4, 3rd best attack according to Big Chances last 4. So Wolves, Jota, Raul. I mean, these are all options, aren't they? Doherty. These are real differential options for the captaincy, but could do well.
There's some great fixtures this week, isn't there? I mean, if it wasn't for the fact that it was a double game week, then there'd be even more of a conversation, I think, because you've got Sheffield United home to Norwich. You could even see all the defender. You've got Southampton home to Newcastle, Danny Ings. You've got Palace at home to Watford. Actually, no, take that back. But you've got loads of options. Wolves being one of them, of course. So Brighton struggled for clean sheets themselves. Wolves don't seem to be hampered by the Europa League at all. They've had a week's rest actually because they haven't been in FA Cup action this week. Jimenez has been near the top of most of the key attacking metrics over the last 6 matches. So I think he's joint second for big chances, second for expected goal involvement, joint third for shots inside the box, all that kind of stuff. And of course now we've got Diogo Jota to factor into the conversation as well, regardless of whether he plays a 3-5-2 or 3-4-3, because he's gotten a double-digit haul in both systems over the last 2 game weeks. And to look at him, I'm going to watch both of Wolves' games recently. He's brilliant. He's back in the sort of form that he was showing towards the end of last season. Doesn't seem to matter where he's playing at the moment. He's demonstrated that he can get those poachers goals from on the goal line. He's got the assist potential as well with those sort of driving runs. So again, any other game week, you'd be talking about him. I just think it's probably a bit of a stretch to take a punt on the captaincy when there are not just better fixtures, but teams with 2 fixtures elsewhere.
Maybe vice captain.
Yeah.
If you're going into it with just maybe KDB or Aubameyang, I think it could be placed for the vice captain. And as we've seen, matches can get postponed for all sorts of reasons. And I guess coronavirus we have to mention just slightly there, in that we don't know. I mean, matches have been postponed. Want to stop the threat of contagion, so you never know what announcements are going to be made. So the vice captain could be crucial, so it's worth mentioning that as well. Best of the rest. I mean, I say best of the rest, I think we've just sort of done the best of the rest, but looking at the other fixtures, I guess Watford Sarr is the form maverick poster boy at the moment against Crystal Palace. Chelsea and Everton looks hard to judge. Calvert-Lewin,
that could be a goal fest. That could be a lot of goals in that.
So I mean, but I'm just sort of mentioning them really. But personally, can't look past the double game week. But hopefully.
And good actually revisiting the double game week options. I don't think we really discussed anything beyond De Bruyne for Man City.
Okay, yeah.
Just to name check a few players, and I don't think anyone would go near Sterling really, given the form he's shown. Aguero is the obvious one, I suppose, because he's got this double game week past. He did very well last season for me. It's of course whether we think he's going to start both the games, because 3 games in a week and then Real Madrid to follow. That's why we've been talking about De Bruyne mostly, because he's the more secure starter, you'd think. But Aguero, I've just been talking about him in his statistics over the last 6, but Aguero, last 6 matches, of which he hasn't even played all of those, he's sometimes gone as a sub or been taken off early. Top for shots on target, shots in the box, or XGI as well. Second for big chances. So he's up there in terms of underlying stats. And if you were sure that he's going to play both games, then he'd be amongst the leading contenders. It's just the fact that we're not sure if he's going to start both games.
If I thought Aguero was going to play both games, I'll be getting him in, because Aguero is that good, and as you said, he has that pedigree and tough matches don't face him, don't face Man City. Yeah, that's the problem you face in a double game with Aguero and Jesus at the moment. You essentially, on paper, probably getting a single game week player. But if they do play twice, well, good luck to you, because you're going to do really well, I would imagine. Sadly, we don't have Laporte, the Man City's usual double game week hero.
Yeah.
Otamendi was someone that Pranel mentioned last night on the Scoutcast, but he has scored. He does score goals. Yeah. Defenders are often the best bet in double game week. So if you're a particular maverick for the captaincy, Otamendi there. Just before we go, just want to mention the members area. You can get membership each month. You can get membership for the rest of the season. Full details on the site. Do have a look at that. All the stats that we've been mentioning there. You should. Sorry. Just laughing.
Sorry.
You were having a massive yawn about my exciting plug for the members area. You can get that membership all the time. All the stats we've been mentioning, all the expected goal stuff. I know that's the sort of it's been for a few years now. A good new stat on the block for a good few years, but finding it very useful indeed. And of course the season ticker, where you can get all those fixtures we've been mentioning updated for the future. So, but for now, Neil, thanks so much for your time.
Cheers, you. See you, everybody.
Cheers.